You're on mute.
Got it. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. You're back in the office.
Back out of my dark cave. Yes.
Does everyone have to come to work? How does it work there? Like come to the office?
We alternate days so that we
You
don't
all.
have that big of a staff to begin with, but we just try to make it so not everybody's here at once.
Was that like an issue when people didn't feel comfortable returning, or everyone was fine?
Everyone was fine. We have a couple of people who don't come in at all. One has a
Yeah.
husband with a health situation.
Yeah.
But the rest of us are just sort of alternating days. Seth is here every day.
Right.
So, and then just based on the proximity of people's desks to each other.
Yeah. So you
We,
guys got it worked out. Well, you're lucky you have a small staff. I don't think CJP isn't going back till, at the earliest January, but I don't think it'll be
right.
for quite some time.
Yeah. My son works for a company that told him the end of 2021.
Yeah. No.
Oh wait, I need to get you on a shared screen.
Yeah, hold on. I need to share my screen.
Oh, wait a minute.
Ooh, gonna instantly record, huh? How you doing,
Good
Kelly?
morning. Good. How are you?
Good, wonderful.
Good to see you, Jordan.
So Jordan, I sent an email on Monday. Did you not get it with the link?
That's fine. I guess I either didn't get it or got deleted.
I'm just concerned that if you didn't get it,
Oh,
somebody else didn't get it.
We'll find out in about a few minutes when
Yeah,
the three of us are the only ones on.
we will find.
Jordan, did you eat breakfast already? Or are you going to eat breakfast during this?
Neither. I am not a big breakfast eater. I'm hoping my wife will go downstairs and make me a cup of coffee, make the coffee this morning during
Oh my gosh,
this.
yeah.
I'm not human.
That's kind of been a positive of the pandemic, which is someone sometimes makes me coffee. Sometimes.
Well, when I'm home, usually we're downstairs together in the kitchen. One of us makes the coffee, like weekends or just when I'm a day off or something. Otherwise, I'm in the office, and thankfully someone's making it for me. So first stop is to the break room for coffee.
I hear you. Are you a native of Delaware?
Native of Philadelphia. But I've been in Delaware now longer than I lived in Philadelphia. Came down here in '83. So made our home there, raised our kids here. It's like a wonderful place. It's the best move I ever made.
That's great.
Yeah.
Hi, Steph. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
How are you?
Hi, Seth. How are you?
Good morning, everybody. Sorry to interrupt. I was listening.
No, that's okay. I said I moved to Delaware back in 1983. It was the best move I ever made. It's just a wonderful place to raise a family, to have a family and friends. And, my wife's from New York. I'm from Philly. Yes, we do run back to those places a lot because we still have family and friends there. And but there's a lot here. It's, the University of Delaware is, I've said from day one, is a diamond in our own backyard, diamond in the rough, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, sure.
Great institution. And it's nice place.
What's your favorite thing about the Jewish community in Delaware?
Oh, good, with Seth and Wendy watching.
Yeah.
What's the best?
I'm really strategic.
You mean
this is a positive, and everyone will say this, and it could be taken as a negative too. It just depends on your perspective, but I look at it as a positive. It's a small community, and I'll say the same. It's a microcosm of Delaware. There's 1 degree of separation down here. everyone knows everyone else. And
Mhm.
that's, some people see that as negative because, good news travels fast, bad news travels speed of light. But, people can help, you hear someone that, might have been ill, or someone that lost a family member, God forbid, or something, and that person, and that person knows that there's community there, that they're going to be
Yeah,
taken care of.
it's a really, really nice thing. I think it's very valuable in so many ways, especially now, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And as I said, it can be a negative too. You do something that's not good, or whatever.
A little
People are
suffocating sometimes, maybe for some
it
people,
can be.
right?
Both my boys said, and you see this in other communities, both my boys said, I'll go anywhere except the University of Delaware, because they didn't want to go to college with their high school friends necessarily. They wanted to
I
move.
hear you.
Yeah, both
Yeah.
of them went to Delaware. But when they graduated, one went to North Jersey, but they still come to Delaware. His wife, who's from North Jersey, if she had her druthers, she'd live in Delaware. She loves it here. And,
Good morning, Max.
my
Yeah.
other son just went 6,000 miles away, Israel. So he
Listen,
ran away from home totally.
a different community. Something for everyone, right? I grew
Yeah.
up in Denver, as Wendy was saying, and it's a little bit, seems like it used to be similar to how Delaware is now. So I understand
I've been, been
the
to
positives and the negatives.
Been to Denver. It's a wonderful city. Love it out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's great.
So you're in Boston now?
I'm in Boston. Yes.
I love Boston, except for the
Good morning,
Patriots.
everyone. Oh, no, my whole family is New York fans. My husband's from New Jersey, so I don't even.
Still don't. You're still not endearing me, because I'm not, Yankees are. I married a girl from the Bronx. Okay,
Yeah.
I get that fight here.
Yeah, I
Yankees
hear
and
you.
Giants. So you're not endearing me by saying.
Good morning. Good morning, Michael. Stephanie, good morning.
Good morning, Kelly. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm very excited. Today is a very special day here at Cook Senior Living.
Oh, that's wonderful. What's going on?
Today is National Dog Day, and we were able to return
Awesome.
pet therapy back to the community.
Oh, that is
Oh.
wonderful.
Yeah, we're very thrilled. I was able to bring my pet therapy, my Paws for People pet therapy dog Hunter in today for the first time. So it's very exciting.
That is really wonderful. That's great. Guys, I'm getting a dog in like 3 weeks, and I'm not yet a dog person, and the dog is coming. And so, I'm really excited. I'm getting excited.
What kind of dog?
A black lab.
Nice.
Is it an adult dog or a puppy?
It's a puppy. It's a puppy.
Oh,
I've got 2 young boys, and we're raring to go with that experience, if you know what I'm saying.
100% as I bring my dog to work. So
Yes.
And I totally mean this. If you could use any words of wisdom, please feel free to give me a call, and I'd be happy to talk you through being a new dog mom.
Awesome. You're on my speed dial.
Awesome.
I need all the help I can get. I need, I am a trainer, so I believe in training, and I feel like I need to get all the training.
Well, I will tell you that dog training isn't about the dog. It's
Yes.
about training the person.
Yes.
I've heard that, and I'm ready to listen, and I'm ready to be trained, and I'm ready, all of it. I'm ready.
That's wonderful. It's so nice that you're going to do that for your boys to have a friend.
Yes, they need it. Our school start date was just pushed back to, I don't know, never. So it was pushed back to October, but I feel like we're just doing micro pushbacks, right?
Wow.
But that's great. That's why we're going to talk about, adapting and being agile. And my husband can tell you I was so agile last night when I heard that news. He said, "Aren't you giving a training on this tomorrow? Go look at your notes." Listen, we're all going through it, right? We're all going through it.
What's the situation up in your area? I mean, just, you know, people going through all this. I mean, what's the attitude? You know, how are people coping? Or do you see people getting out at all, doing things, trying to get some sense of normalcy, or are they?
Yeah,
scared?
you know, I think people are, first of all, everyone wears a mask everywhere. Massachusetts, you know, our governor was pretty strong from the beginning. So we have a lot of really good mandates. And, you know, people are doing what they can do safely. I think, you know, we have come to a point of really understanding what needs to be done to keep things under control, hopefully. So that's what's going on here. Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
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 Michael,
Morning, Rachel, Rob.
are you actually at Rosenthal's?
I wish.
Hey, there's Shari. How are you?
Good morning. I am wonderful, thank you.
Good.
Morning. Good morning, Ivy.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Did you see me wave? I waved. Oops.
Wondering, I'm getting some pictures of people, but not all. Maybe there.
There are, I believe I saw there were 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 people that signed in with, or signing in, but without,
Oh, that's fine. You
Yeah.
just want to listen in, right?
that was it.
That's great. No problem with that. Terrific. Good morning, Brent. Good morning, Sherry. Good morning, Ellen. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you too, Kelly. How are you? How have you been?
Doing great, doing great. You know, we just keep on keeping on. I always say, like, today I'm in Delaware, you know, tomorrow I'm in Hartford, today, you know, and I sort of pretend that I'm traveling there, these like mind games we've all invented.
And then you wake up.
And then you wake up. It's so true. It's so true. But, you know, we do what we have to. We do what we have to.
Yes.
I think they call that, you know, visualization and stuff. So nice to see you all here this morning.
That's okay. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I have my headphones on.
Good morning, Richard.
He'll be here in a second.
I'm here. I'll just be here for a while. I have a 9:10.
This is one of 3 consecutive Zoom meetings for me this morning.
I have a 9 o'clock as well.
I have a 9:30, so I can have my coffee between 9 and 9:30.
I'm sitting here eating my breakfast, which is why you're not watching me.
But I'm here now.
Oh my gosh, I love breakfast. We can all eat breakfast together. It's good.
We can.
These are the kinds of things that are okay on Zoom completely.
we
If we were
can.
in person, we'd have bagels, right?
We can, and I am.
A lot of groups now do these, you know, like Zoom dinners and Zoom happy hours and everything. Everyone brings their food and just eat.
A great conversation.
It's true. I mean, listen, I think it's great. I think it's great. We all just gotta, you know, Gotta relax and eat our Rosenfeld's bagels. I want whatever Irish is having.
A bagel with orange marmalade.
Sounds delicious. Yum.
That's my favorite.
That does sound delicious.
Yeah. A half a bagel. I only eat a half.
Good morning, Robin.
For the bottom half.
Right. And the bottom half, right.
Right. The bottom half is better than the top.
Exactly.
It depends how
I'll
you
swing by and take your top.
The sesame seeds live on the top half.
Oh, not an everything bagel?
Mm.
I mean, guys, this is what we should do. Debate the virtues of the bottom versus the top half of the bagel for an hour. I think we should do it. I have plenty to say on that. I'm like not even telling you what I think because
I've never even considered that.
I give the top half to my husband because it looks thicker. I give him that one, and I eat the bottom half, which I think
Smart move. Smart move, Iris.
Right.
This is the kind of issue Gulliver's Travels would address.
Okay, we're gonna wait 1 minute and then get started. Okay, it's 8:03. So good morning, everyone. We're gonna get started to keep everyone on time. And I know other people have some commitments that have to jump off. That's fine. Welcome to session 2 of our community leadership workshop series. We were thrilled to have around 50 people join us for the first session. And we had about 75 signed up for today. So we'll see how early everyone can get up and get on the computer this morning. And the feedback we received from session 1 about board member roles and responsibilities was very positive, and everyone loved Kelly. So we're thrilled to welcome her back for session 2. And this is, of course, a very timely and critical topic when we're talking about leadership and culture change in the new normal. If there is anything called normal now, I'm not sure what it is, but we'll talk about that. For those of you who were not able to join us last week, that's no problem. We welcome you today. And of course, all of you are welcome again next week for our 3rd session. You don't need to take notes. I will send you the slide deck after the presentation. So that will be available to you. And of course, Kelly has kindly offered to provide her contact information, and I'll send you her website so you're able to be in touch with Kelly if you'd like to. If everyone can put themselves on mute, that would be great so we don't have background noise and interference. There will be opportunities to share information in the chat and also to participate in some sharing throughout the presentation, and Kelly will let you know when those times are. So Kelly is our consultant. She comes to us from Wellesley, Massachusetts, and by way of my hometown, Denver, Colorado, and went to school at Brandeis. She has spent over 25 years leading driven organizations. She's worked in community federations, institutions of higher learning, social justice nonprofits, educational alliances, and political advocacy organizations. And she launched her own nonprofit firm, Front Door Consulting. If everyone could mute, that would be great, in 2010. And today she is going to help guide us along leadership and culture change in the new normal. And as those of you who joined us at the very beginning can attest to, when we were all just chatting, every day is a new normal, and we don't know what every day is going to bring, and every day is a little bit different. And all of us are very passionate and committed to the success of our individual organizations as well as our Jewish community. So I am thrilled and honored to welcome Kelly to help us lead through that change.
Well, thank you so much, Wendy. Thank you so much for having me for not just one, but 3 training sessions, and for trusting me with that. I'm so happy to see the faces that I saw last time, and I welcome the new participants. Today's topic, as Wendy said, is leadership and culture change in the new normal. The last session, we honed in on board roles and responsibilities, things that never shift, and things that need to be altered a little bit, somewhat, given this very, very altered environment that we're in. So we are going to begin with a slide that I did show last week, so don't hang up if you've seen it before. I just want to lay the Zoom board meeting ground rules, because this is such a big part of our new normal. As Wendy said, and I don't need to belabor it, mute your microphone. We can hear your dog eating in the kitchen, even if you think that we can't. So definitely mute it, limit distractions, avoid multitasking. So this for me is not only that you show up, but it's how you show up, right? We want to just be very present. That's really, really important in this environment. You know, whatever your facilitators' sort of ground rules are, whether it is using the chat box or raising your hand with that function, please do that. Zoom has that crossover thing where 2 people are speaking. It's really an awkward situation. So for things to go as well as they need to, we really want to abide by those structural rules for Zoom board meetings. The second list here is really the most important. Come prepared. People's bandwidth for Zoom meetings is really about 30 minutes, even though we never expect them to only be 30 minutes. So the more prepared you are, the more you've read, the more you've outlined what questions you have, the better things go and the more productive things are. You know, we want to listen to all ideas and points. We really need to understand that leadership lives in language, and we are all subject to a lot of time constraints and frustrations and kids hanging off our ankles under our desks, some of us. So, you know what, just keep things moving, keep things polite, say things once, and then sort of step back, stop talking, speak your mind, and understand that different opinions are welcome. And we really need to remember that we are all volunteers, right? And we need to double down on this etiquette, because it's much harder to do virtually than it is sitting around a table at a board meeting, where you can really pick up body language and, you know, those kinds of subtle signals. So we're all here for the same reasons, to achieve the same goals. Just super important to remember that, and to really understand the ground rules for Zoom board meetings. So as I was putting this together, guys, wait, first I want to tell you I'm not a rabbi, okay? I am not a rabbi, but I am a history buff. So when I was putting this presentation together, I kind of realized that it seems like we've been here before. All right, this may feel a little like hyperbole, but I don't think it's too much of a stretch. So I want to take us back to pre-COVID times, actually really pre-COVID, the year 66 of the Common Era, when there was the destruction of the Second Temple, right, which we recognize throughout the holiday of Tisha B'Av. But you know, there was sort of the same situation. There was this fear and longing for consistency and familiarity. There was the Babylonian exile. The temple was no longer the center of Jewish life. And the genius of the rabbis at that time was, you know, they really created services to replace sacrifices, which of course you needed the temple for at that time. And they developed prayer rituals to keep the faith and to keep their identity, and to move forward with innovation and imagination and embrace this new reality of distance, right? And the result was post-temple Judaism, which thrived and expanded into the pluralistic and diverse religion that we know today. So the commonalities and the takeaway was that physical gathering was the norm. There was a traumatic disruptor, as we've had now. There was a longing for consistency and familiarity. And there was necessary innovation to create an even richer, more robust, thriving Jewish culture. And that is really what I believe our charge is right now. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more and what that means as we move along through the presentation. But seems like we've been here before. We can do this. Okay, so first I want to ask you, just as a little bit of a warm up, if you could please put into the chat box, who is a leader you look up to, and who do you consider a leadership icon? And if you could just place that in the chat box, it would be great. I'd love to hear some of your responses. Do we have anyone? Oh, here we go. Jamie Dimon, Obama, yeah. A lot of Obama. There are so many qualities that he has that we sort of use as a model for true leadership. Ben Gurion, that's a great one. That's a great one. Yeah, so these are all kind of leaders we want to emulate. We want to channel them right now. We want to really think about, we want to watch them on YouTube. We really want to think about how they approach situations that are complex. Golda Meir, Teddy Roosevelt, John F. Kennedy. Oh, Myrna, I love this. Your father, that's awesome. That's terrific. That's great. So these are all really, really important people to keep in mind as we go through this time. I think we can lose our center, and when you center your thoughts around someone who handles, emulates leadership in a way that you want to, I think that's a terrific thing to do. So let's talk about our goals today. Sorry, here we go. Okay. So first, we're going to reflect on changes and resulting impact over the past 6 months. We're going to explore the essential back to basics that are going to sustain us through this. And then we're going to work together and share ideas as leaders how to proceed during this moment in time. The last presentation I did was really information heavy because it was roles and responsibilities of the board. This one I hope to be a little more interactive, which is I think much more of a productive sort of learning environment for everyone. So I hope that you'll feel comfortable to participate, and let's get going. Reflect on the changes and resulting impact over the past 6 months. So I think we need to stop, right? We need to ask ourselves, wait, what just happened? And everybody thinks like, well, it's COVID, but it's not just COVID. Over the last 6 months, let's talk a little bit about, if you can put in the chat box, what are some things that we have experienced as a society in the last 6 months apart from COVID? Because there's a lot, right? We have isolation, job loss, way too much togetherness. I see that. We have, the murder of George Floyd. Yes, racial unrest is what I was just about to say. An electronic revolution. Okay, a return to family values. Right. We have the admission scandal. We have a lot of moral and ethical things that came to light. The sentencing of Harvey Weinstein. We have, yes, anxiety, heightened politics. Huge right now. Huge. So we can see that there are a lot of things that have happened, and it wasn't just COVID, because before COVID, the winds of change for nonprofits were already blowing. The entire sector was undergoing changes. I want to talk about what those were, because I think we like to blame everything on COVID, but really these things were happening before. There were demographic shifts in our communities, generational shifts, the largest transfer of wealth ever. There is an estimated $30 trillion set to exchange, to be, exchange hands between baby boomers and millennials in the next 10 to 20 years. We are certainly going to experience change because of that. The rise of foundations, advocacy and activism. You know, so many things were going on and were happening before COVID. And I really think that COVID was just the accelerant. It really pushed us over the edge because we all resist change, right? It was like the taking down of the Second Temple. We had to be pushed over the edge because none of us like change. We all resist change. But the reality is that COVID as an accelerant kind of pushed us to do some of the things that we needed to do. So here I'm going to talk about, I have two questions. I have two questions and I would love some responses. How have these changes impacted your organization? And I think that, Wendy, how you are most comfortable facilitating, if you want to put just your name in the chat box so Wendy knows that you want to share, that would be great. But I really do want to know, you know, your organization, how have all of these changes, not just COVID, impacted your organization?
So if you'd like to share something verbally with the group, just type your name in the chat and we'll call on you.
Have you all experienced, you know, have you gone through diversity training? Has that become a priority? Have you, obviously we're not meeting in person at this moment, but what kind of effect has that had?
So Russ first and then Lisa, and then we'll get to the rest.
Terrific.
I'll keep it brief. I mean, I think that the biggest thing, besides the obvious of meetings by Zoom and so on and so forth, and this is as one of the vice presidents of Federation Allocations Committee, member of Federation, and so on and so forth, is the uncertainty. We don't know what the community's needs are. We suspect what each organization's needs are. We suspect that they're even greater than what they can possibly know, but we just don't know. And it's hard to operate in the unknown.
Thank you for that. That is really, really crucial.
Lisa?
Okay, so I am campaign co-chair, annual campaign co-chair with Russ. So addressing just the annual campaign, it used to not create anxiety in me to reach out to donors. I actually, if I could speak to one, I enjoyed it, and I actually, you know, enjoyed the interactions. Now it makes me anxious to, you know, reach out to donors because I'm afraid that I'm getting them at a terrible time financially and I don't know how they're going to react, etc. Just, it's a little more difficult to reach out to people other than by email for me.
For sure, that there is a fundraising challenge in that. But I want to encourage you to contact me after this or stay on and we could talk more about that because there's a lot of great thinking around that right now. Those are terrific.
Kimberly Sutherland.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hello. So we were always told, and not specifically me in my area of the organization, but most of us in IT were told that we needed to be on site to sit next to the business areas that we supported. And when COVID hit and we were all sent home, it became apparent, I think, to the organization, to everyone, that it wasn't a necessity to physically be next to somebody.
Oh, that is a change, right? We've learned that.
Yes.
Absolutely, we've learned some of that.
And I think we're carrying it forward.
Yes.
I think we're about to change our workplace policies because of it, in a good way. In a good way.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Maybe a little more balance. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's take one more on this one.
Sherry?
As a member of the Cook Senior Living Auxiliary, it's been very challenging to reach out, obviously, to the residents of the facilities and to know what their needs are. It's been challenging not to see the residents.
Yeah.
And just, you know, it's
This
been
is a major one. Mhm.
yeah, it's been difficult for both, for the residents and for the auxiliary members who have been active and involved in the facilities.
Sure, sure. This is a big one in every community. I'm going to say in every community. I want to ask a second part of this. As a board member, how have some of these changes impacted your work? Are you required to change the way you work? Are there things that you have to do now that you didn't have to do? Can anybody report on just some differences in sort of board member, role or responsibility that feels different to you now?
Brent?
I think that, probably the biggest impact that we had is the frequency of meetings.
Yes.
Especially in the early goings, much less so now, because I think we kind of have a stride. But in the early going, with the uncertainty, everything was being minutely measured and tracked on a daily basis, let alone weekly basis. Every time you're to figure out payroll and what were we going to communicate for the next payroll period. Staff. It definitely brought the board, I think, together more, because not just committees were meeting more frequently, but the board was meeting more frequently, and the updates were always going to be pertinent and information laden with immediate actions and decisions needed. So I think it really kind of helped foster that sense of there's a reason why we're here. And it also got an opportunity to really highlight the extraordinary efforts of the staff.
That's awesome to hear. Yes.
The impacts that they've been doing behind the scenes to make sure that we're evaluating everything from all angles. So I thought it was healthy from that perspective to fight for our existence.
So I think that I love what you've just said, and it's in a slide here later, but I'm going to stop on this right now. But the importance of increased meeting frequency and metrics, just the things you're describing, and really having a clear charge, clear goals, and clear roles. I mean, you moved forward exactly the way that you should have. And you saw a lot of results that were not just, metrics based, but it brought you closer as a board. And these are positives that can come out of situations like this. And when we realize that it isn't all negative, right? So I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
Russ, you have a thought?
Yeah, first of all, I agree with what Brent said. I thought that was well put. The other thing, though, that I think maybe in some senses is both necessary but unfortunate, is that we've had to focus a lot more on the short term by necessity.
Yes.
We don't want 9-hour meetings, and because we don't, and our staff only has so much time, and as a result of that, there's less of an ability to plan for things that are long term, to plan for programming. I mean, first of all, programming would have to be online anyway, so it's not the same. But there has definitely been a time horizon change in focus, which I think probably just can't be avoided. It is what it is.
Sure, and I think it's okay to say that parts of it are less exciting, right? They're less interesting. I mean, you're talking about less discussion about vision, right? And more about necessity and assessment and who needs what. And that is, crisis management right there. But listen, I said a little bit of this before, but what we're in, it's not what anyone signed up for, because nobody saw it coming, or very few people saw it coming, with the exception of a few, MIT scientists maybe, right? And who knows if you would have thought, well, this is going to be a really rewarding experience for me to lead through this. And, we're all kind of looking at that and saying, okay, I'm here and I'm needed now more than ever, but it's maybe not as stimulating as you had hoped it would be. So I think that's, that's valid and really important to name, let's do one more on this and kind of move on to how to approach change management right now.
Jordan, would you like to share something?
Sure. I currently don't sit on local boards here on the in the Jewish community, but I'm a consultant, obviously a financial consultant to a lot of boards. And, you know, what I see is a reevaluation of business models, and they've learned to become more flexible, to be able to adapt. And those that weren't flexible before have been struggling a little, or scampering to adapt to survive. And so I do see a lot of boards reevaluating their business model, and which is a good thing. That should have been done, not accelerated by the pandemic.
Yeah, I agree. Well, sometimes it takes that, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes the situation. Okay, so let's talk about what's going to sustain us. And, you know, we think that it's possibly going to be all of this newfangled wisdom, but really it's back to the basics. And that's how we have to do things. And what do I mean by that? You know, let's start here. It's very basic, but don't assume, write it down. So you've all expressed that there's been a difficulty assessing need in the different organizations in your community. That is an opportunity to convene a task force or a small committee. I mean, I love the task forces right now because they're brought together and they're there to solve a problem, and then they are meant to disband. But if you're having trouble assessing needs, I think this is a great way to do it. And, you know, when you report back on with that information, it sounds so basic, but nothing is real until you write it down. You think everyone's going to remember, people don't remember. We want to move forward with as much intention as possible. And in order to do that, we can assume nothing. We can't assume everyone's remembering, or that the allocations committee is remembering that there is a greater need because of this. It is a professional staff responsibility, but as leadership, insist that it be written down. Insist that there be minutes from every single meeting, because that is your institutional record. And that's how we hold our organizations, our boards, and, you know, our funders accountable right now. You know, what are you adding this year in terms of board meetings? What are the new expectations for board members? You know, let's not just say, well, we have to meet more frequently because we're going through a crisis and change management. Schedule it, write it down, create a new job description for your board members. And, you know, I want to stress this institutional memory piece, because if we weren't going through this, I would be giving the single most frequent workshop I give is about how to preserve, how to create institutional memory and preserve, you know, what the data, what's going on. It's so necessary. There's a lot of turnover in these organizations. There's a lot of leadership turnover. And this is one thing that we all need to get better at, crisis or no crisis. So don't assume, write it down, and, you know, keep calm and write it down. You can, you know, interpret that how, I don't know how calm you all are, but I tend to be less calm, but just if I write it down, I get more calm. Balance your agenda. This is reworking your board materials, right? And increasing your updates on operational issues. That's one thing that Brett mentioned. I like the tactic of sending out a COVID written update prior to each board meeting, so you don't spend time on that. I've said before that there's kind of a 30-minute real bandwidth for absorbing information during a Zoom board meeting. Send this out beforehand, give people an update, and then ask them to prepare their questions, leaving space on the agenda for those update related questions, for those, you know, situational questions. I think that you want to make some space in the agenda for some more strategic conversations. We talked about there's limited conversations about vision, but there doesn't have to be if you can get that operational stuff out of the way, and you can sort of get talking about how to move forward. And there is so much innovation right now. And you can say, you know, well, the programs are online, or, you know, this is happening and this isn't happening. But we want to switch to what we can do rather than what we can't do. And in order to do that, we have more meetings. Okay, great. So let's get that operational stuff out of the way and balance the agenda so that we can look forward. There is an incredible amount of creativity and innovation that bubbles up when there's the space to talk about it and to really have that brainstorm. So the second thing that we want to do to get back to the basics is balance that agenda. Okay, what gets measured gets done. All right, we've talked about this last time, but we're going to talk about it again. It's that important. Setting short, medium, and long-term goals as benchmarks for work to be done this year. The board, you guys need to be setting strategic goals or resetting the strategic goals. You need to reset the board goals. The board goals are not the same as they were last year. What are the new board goals? You want to collaborate with professional staff here to really set those in stone. Everything needs to be fluid. And I know there's a dichotomy there, but you can keep adjusting, but you want to start out with what your board goals are. And if those need to be adjusted, keep adjusting them, but reset those board goals. And, you know, setting those goals strategically for the board lets the staff determine their operational goals, right? So I hear a lot, you know, the frustration, well, the professional staff isn't blank. Okay, but you give them their marching orders. And the professional staff doesn't work for the board. The board only has one employee, and that's the executive director, and everybody else works you know, in a structure that is overseen by the executive director. But here's the thing, their marching orders come from you. So understand what you need and get what you need. That's really important, because one thing you're saying to me is you're having trouble assessing what your community organizations need. Your staff, where you are working in the organizations that you are leading, they're having trouble knowing what you necessarily need, or they can sit all day and work on reports that you don't really need. So feel free to communicate and to tell them what would be really great. What do you need? I think that's really, really important. Help your staff know what kind of work they need to be doing and what they need to be spending their time on right now. All right, guys. Less is more. I do believe that. I say that all the time. Radically prioritize. Okay. The first and foremost is the safety of everybody. You cannot carry out your mission, even a revised mission, unless you're adhering to protocols, which, you know, that's a legality as well. But let's just think about that in general. That's the first priority. The second thing is if you are not financially sustainable, you can't carry out your mission either. So what happens? You know, we have to look at those programs. We have to look at those programs that have been a tradition, and we have to ask ourselves, are they supporting us right now? Do we need to sunset those programs or take a hiatus from those programs? And we need to avoid taking on new work unless you have the human capital to get it done, and unless you can afford to get it done without jeopardizing your other priorities. These are the tough questions. These are sensitive questions in board meetings. People are very attached to the work that's been done and the way that it's been done, which is a good thing, because this is why they agreed to be on the board. I'm talking to you. This is why you agreed to be on the board. You love this program. This works. You love, you know, the kind of outreach that's done in this way. And sometimes it can't happen the way that we thought it was going to happen. Again, not what we signed up for, but we have to radically prioritize here and understand that this year it's okay to say no. It's okay to say no. There's a threshold for disappointment, but it passes, and we refocus and we reprioritize. I mean, I told some of you on this call that, you know, last night it was announced that, you know, my kids actually aren't going back to school at all until October 1st. And, you know, just giving yourself a minute to hold that and to kind of be frustrated about it, and then reframe and say, you know what, it's going to be okay, and this is why, and this is how we're going to do things. That's exactly what we've all got to be doing. Don't ask me how well I did that. It didn't go great according to my husband, but you know what? We're all a work in progress, right? So definitely feel free. It is okay to say no and take on only what you can handle and only what your professional staffs can handle. Practicing gratitude. This isn't woo-woo at all, guys. We got to recognize and appreciate the heroic efforts here. We have to thank and recognize all of these people and these organizations that pulled us through the past 5+ months. That includes the board, it includes the professional staff, the volunteers, the vendors. And, you know, practicing gratitude does not have to be expensive. If you're reading up in the Chronicle of Philanthropy and in other publications or on every blog, you're seeing these kind of huge expressions of gratitude that organizations are pulling off, which is really lovely. And that's amazing, but they can be expensive. It doesn't have to cost a lot. It can be a text. It can be a phone call. You know, send a book and, you know, give a shout out in a newsletter or on a Zoom call. Send a challah for Shabbat. It does not have to be expensive, but right now we are sustained and reinforced by both practicing and receiving gratitude. We need it. You know, we need it. It's fine. It doesn't make anyone weak. It's really just a function of what we need to be doing and what works. So that is a back to the basic that maybe should be the first slide, you know, practicing gratitude. We heard it, but over communicate. Update your board communication strategy. Got to meet more frequently. We've got to send updates between board meetings. Somebody asked in the last session, how much email is too much email, right? How much is too much? And you know what I would say is make sure each email says something important and try to condense things into those emails. But I think we need to feel like we're over communicating because, you know, some people are deleting, some people are reading. People can delete if they've already heard it, but keeping everybody informed is way more important than hearing you didn't communicate, no one knew what was going on. You know, it's just a better thing to do. It's a better practice. Consider drop in virtual office hours with your CEO or your executive director or your board chair if you have time. That tends to be working really, really well. You know, what else are people doing to over communicate? Can you share some of the things that you're doing that are, you know, really helping you communicate with your constituency right now? I want to see in the chat box if possible. I'd love to hear.
Felicia, would you like to share something?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Felicia. Yeah.
Hi. So I guess I'm an oversharer, not as much as late, but so I was doing a weekly chat on Facebook Live.
I love it.
I have a dedicated COVID line at work so that residents, family members, board members, auxiliary members can call in at any time and see what our status is at both of our facilities. And then I send out usually I send out 3 to 4 emails a week to the family members, but I also include all the board members, the agency execs on that email so that the community knows what's going on at both of our facilities.
And can you just tell me what your role is and
Sure,
what organization you're from?
Sure, I'm the executive director for Cook Senior Living Campus. So we have
Great.
an assisted living and a memory care,
Yes.
and also a SNF and long-term care.
Terrific.
Alan, would you like to share something?
You're asking me?
Yes.
Yeah. For congregants principally, just last evening we held a Shul town hall to
Fantastic.
to communicate our high holiday events and the protocols surrounding them. We're a shul that abides by modern Orthodox practice, so we cannot live stream during Yom Tov or Shabbos. So it was very important to do the best we could do to communicate what we are offering, and the town hall is one of the means of doing that.
So I love what you just said, because not only is the town hall a great idea, but you had several things to navigate when coming up with that. So not only was there this existential crisis, but also the fact that, you know, your rituals preclude you from live streaming, you know, all of those things. And so it's kind of interesting what you can come up with and how you can accomplish exactly what you need to, even when you feel like you're stopped at every turn, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of weekly email updates in the chat box and an ongoing article email and, you know, informal catch-ups. And I think these things we can see that these things are really, really important. And I feel like, if I can just say, not being there, it seems to me like your community is doing a really good job with communication. Overall, I'm sure we have, you know, instances where we could know more or could have known more earlier, but what I'm seeing here is, you know, you're really on the ball when it comes to talking to each other, and that is, you know, incredibly important and something to be really, really proud of. And you're going to reap the benefits of that throughout this year. So sorry to give you a quote by Napoleon, but dress me slowly, I'm in a hurry. I love this one because I think that as we proceed, you know, right here and right now, we think that we need to rush to solve, rush to do, everything is timely. But you know what? The truth of the matter is that this situation it changes every day, but it's not really going anywhere. So before we try to solve problems so quickly, I think we need to prepare ourselves, really prepare ourselves, set goals, clarify roles, and understand what we're doing before we rush to, you know, kind of blow everything up and try to solve. And I'm sorry it's Napoleon, but I do think of this often, you know, like prepare, hold it for a second, and then move forward. And I want to, you know, be able to share some ideas. We've done a lot of I love this group because you guys are so interactive, but if there are any other things that you're doing right now that you could share with the other organizations in your community about how you're proceeding now that haven't been mentioned, I'd love to hear about them. I think that, you know, change keeps coming, right? I'm from Colorado, so I put an avalanche there. Like, it just keeps coming and coming and coming. And it's inevitable. And we can't always control it, right? All we can control is how we manage, react, and work through this process. And I think that, you know, we just have to keep that in mind, because this is not really a sprint, it's a marathon, and it's going to go on for a while. So we've got to get used to this sort of back and forth fluidity of things. And, you know, I would love to actually just hear more if there are certain strategies your organization has come up with to lead during this time, if we haven't heard from you yet.
Ellie, this is Danny Haas, board president of the JCC.
Hi, Dan. Nice to meet you.
Everybody. I'd say that we're communicating a lot. We're listening to our members. We're doing surveys. If we have programming ideas, before we roll it out, we ask them, do we want to have, you know, sort of after school-ish kind of activities for, you know, to help online kids with a place to work? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And we're listening to our members and asking them before we launch anything.
Would you say that's a new thing for you? Something that you've altered? Because
no, I'd say we increased our intensity.
Yeah.
So we used to do surveys every 3, 6, 9 months. Now we do it whenever we have a thoughtful idea, we run it by people.
So I love it. I feel like even assembling a focus group of 3 or 4 people before you do something now is super important. If you can't survey everyone, it seems you found a way to do a proper survey, but just getting a sample really, really helps us understand who's even going to show up, whether that's virtual or not, or if this is a smart use of staff time and of, you know, leadership and volunteer time. Thank you for sharing that. Anything else along those lines? Okay. All right, I think we've actually said quite a bit because you all are so willing to share, which I'm so appreciative, just about the increasing frequency of meetings, you know, over communicating, doing all of those things. And, you know, they're so important and they work. And I feel like, I hope that you have a map going forward of the things that we need to be doing to lead successfully. It really isn't a mystery. We're seeing it work. You know, all the time. We're seeing these very, very simple tactics work all the time. And so we're going to, you know, sum up here and say, you know, what is our mantra? What does our mantra need to be? Guys, it's back to the basics. It's not crazy new stuff, right? Don't assume, write it down, balance your agenda, leave space in your agenda for questions, for thinking of new ideas, new ways to engage constituency, new ways to expand your donor base. We're going to talk about that a lot next time. You know, metrics, how to measure. I think metrics is a word that people feel like you need to hire someone who does a lot of really high level data crunching. Guys, no, you know, by metrics and measuring, I mean, how many people do we hope to have on this call? How many people can we count on? Did we meet that goal? Do we need to adjust expectations? That's what I mean by measure. You know, I think Dan just talked about that a little bit also. You know, if you've done a survey and you get feedback, then, you know, what are you seeing as the outcome? Would you do it again? Ask people what they thought afterward. I think I said this last time, but the follow-up piece is always what's missing. What did you think of this? What did you think of this experience? Given the constraints, what could we have done better? You know, talk to your constituents. It's the most important information that you'll get. Sitting around as a board and talking to each other about what you thought is great because you're also constituents, but talk to people about it and bring that information back. Prioritize radically. Guys, cut things out where you need to. And first, make sure you're safe. Second, make sure, you know, you're able to financially meet the needs of the organization. And, you know, just say no when you have to. Practice gratitude. Don't ever forget to do this. We're all under a lot of pressure. Again, this is not what a lot of you signed up for, but it really helps when you know that the results are there and that you are appreciated, or it actually feels great to say to someone, thank you so much. You know, thank you, Jordan, for your help with the finances here. Thank you for explaining this to me. Thank you so much. I mean, this is what strengthens our community. This is community building at its best, right? And over communicating. So I think I over communicate, right? I should just probably stop talking at this point, but we can't say these things enough times because it's the inculcation that really creates habit, or really creates a new normal. And, you know, that piece of it is just, you know, don't stop doing it. It seems like you're doing a great job at it already as a community. Don't stop doing it. I kind of added a slide here that I like, which is really what human qualities are best practices in the new normal. You know, the first is trust and respect of your fellow lay leadership, all right, on your boards. The respect piece is huge, also of the professional staff. Everybody is faced with a lot of challenges. Patience, we need to have patience. You know, take a deep breath. School is not starting until October. Kelly, take a deep breath. The dog is coming, take a deep breath. It's like we all have to have patience, and it's forced. You know, I'm feeling that in my own life as well. But, you know, after we do it enough, it becomes really just something that we become better at. And, you know, I hope to be getting better at it every day. Flexibility, adaptability. We've talked about those things. Really a general
Do you know what
openness.
our mission statement is for the school? I couldn't find it on our website anymore.
Yep, find your mission statement. Find your mission statement. That is super, super important. Review your mission statement with your board. See if you need to tweak that at all right now. Have an openness to doing that. Collaboration is something we really need to be open to and focusing on right now, even with people who, you know, sometimes have differences of opinions with us, you know, traditionally. Let's work on that collaboration, open and honest communication. And my favorite is a sense of humor. I really could not do this without a sense of humor. And I think as hard as this all is, we have to laugh a lot, because otherwise we're not getting through it. I mean, there's just so much here going on, and I think it's a shared experience. And at the end of the day, you know, to be able to connect with somebody and just kind of laugh about it is, as I say, the best medicine. So, you know, these are just things that I think help us get back to the basics and move forward and navigate this new normal. And, you know, that's what it is. And as Wendy said, as if we can even call it normal, but some of these things are really sticking as a new normal, and practices we hope to keep after the pandemic. Because as I mentioned before, I mean, those winds of change were already blowing. We have to adapt anyway. We have to be agile anyway. We have to deal with what's here in our communities and the change anyway. So I would love to take anybody's questions if you have them, or, you know, hear any additional comments at all. Please feel free. I mentioned to Wendy before that as a consultant in this space, it is absolutely my pleasure during this time to get an email from anyone to talk to you about any issue you might be having that you could use a little support with. You know, people who do what I do, you know, we don't do this for the fame. We do this to help, you know, and we want these organizations and these communities to be strengthened and be strong. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you need to and if you'd like to. I'm just checking the, somebody's saying here that they love the collaborative efforts through COVID within your community and the broader Jewish community. I feel like I've noticed that about the community in Delaware, and I think it's super impressive. Yeah, somebody just said, instead of the new normal, current reality. I like that. I think I'll change the title of the presentation actually before I give it next time, because I agree with you. Well, thank you all so much, and thank you for participating throughout. It was really, really, I think, important. I got a lot of great ideas. I hope you all got great ideas from each other, and I'm happy to stay on for a little bit afterward if you have any questions you'd like to talk to me about individually, or just, you know, talk through something at all. I will stay happy to stay on.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You guys have a great day and keep on doing what you're doing. It's awesome. And I hope to see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Thank you, Molly. Am I going to get a few holdovers? Can we talk about some things? That's great. That's great. Okay.
I'm gonna jump off so
All
that.
right. Oh,
if
can I
anyone
stay
wants-
on?
Yes, but if anyone wants to talk to Kelly and wants to say something privately, that's why I'm gonna get off. Have your great conversation. Have a wonderful day. And
Bye,
I'll see you next-
Wendy. Thank you so much for everything.
Bye, Wendy.
Bye.
Kelly, this is Jeff Strauss. Can you hear me?
Hi, Jeff. Yes, I can hear you.
I just have one comment about over communications and extra emails and all that, and that is respecting people's time. I think so often, you know, if people could just send out short to the point emails and communicate, is so much more effective than sending out really long epistles. And I think as part of your, you know, discussion of respect, I think respecting time is something that needs to be considered.
So I'm so glad that you said that. And really, this is as someone who I'm also a development writer. So I feel like I try to teach bullets and white space and the long, it's too much, right? It's too much. And there's actually a way to do it, to condense it and to really, you know, make the points, make them quick, because people skim, right? And if you use the bullets and you use the white space and you condense and you're thoughtful, you don't have that problem.
Yes, I think your presentation is excellent. I think your entire presentation, both last time and this time, you know, it's to the point, it gets it across. What I'm thinking about are, I get some epistles in the mail from our, well, I don't want to say from who, but they're just too long. You know, it takes you a half an hour to read through them, and they could make the point in about 3 or 4 minutes.
Yep, the same goes with annual appeals, whether they're online or they're through the mail. I mean, shorter, the better, the bullets, the brevity. I couldn't agree with you more, and thank you so much for your comments about the presentation.
And thank you
I really appreciate the feedback.
Lisa?
Lisa, hi.
Hi,
Okay,
how are
so
you?
you're
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
great.
you so much.
Oh, thank you for coming. Oh my gosh. So you're the campaign chair, so that's a big job, right?
And yeah, and thank you for staying after to talk to me about it for a minute, because yeah, I really want, of course, to be sensitive to people's individual circumstances and what they're going through. Not just financially, but I know even for myself, you know, we have 4 children, my husband and I. Between the two of us, we have 4 children, and it seems that somehow during, you know, the last 6 months, each one of them, you know, has had an issue that's been, and you know, you're only as happy as your saddest child. Anyway, I know that everybody has all of these things going on. And as I said, I did enjoy the part about reaching out to donors. I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware, so I know, you know, a lot of people in Wilmington, Delaware. But I just want to be sensitive to people's circumstances. So, you know, you said you have a lot of thoughts about.
Yeah, I do. So, okay, so first of all, it depends what group. I mean, if we're talking about major donors or somewhat, you know, donors at a somewhat higher level, it is, it's different than, you know, it's different. But I think that the biggest mistake that we can make is to assume that people aren't able to support or don't want to support, and that we shy away from our fulfilling our normal mission, right? So we're talking about in the new normal and everything's different and everything's changed. Well, here's what hasn't changed. The need is greater, right? We're trying to accomplish more with less. There are many, many people who are interested in stepping up at a time when it isn't just a regular time. They're interested in problem solving. They're interested in helping in this way. And I think that it's case by case, but in no way should we assume that people aren't comfortable contributing. And I think when it's larger giving, we have to think through a strategy and their relationship to the organization. You know, I'd heard some things just in other organizations, but you know, people sort of being almost forced to give and in uncomfortable conversations. I mean, shy away from all of that. But you want to say whatever you're comfortable doing, it is more impactful now than ever. Figure out what you probably know if you're there assigned to them, but what their priorities are, and then hone your conversation to give them almost an ROI, a report to investor, on what is happening in that particular area in your community, and could you help us do this year? People will surprise you when you're doing online programming. Always include a donation button, and you think that is not going to work. It is working everywhere all the time because people are feeling so appreciative to participate, and this is how they're wanting to give. So there's a lot of, cute ways to say that, a lot of really good strategic ways to kind of put that out there. And it depends on the program. And, we could think that through together. But the biggest mistake that can be made is to assume that people can't or don't want to give. It all has to be done in a very sensitive way. But this is where the relationship is the hard thing to build, not the ask. It's not the ask that's hard to do. And also, if you're having trouble with the relationship, I would hold off, because that needs to be looked at as an overall strategy. What's happening with this person? How can we, re-engage? How can we come to better understand this person? Forget about asking for the gift right now. That work has to be done. That groundwork has to be laid. And listen, call COVID an accelerant, but that probably needed to happen 3 years ago, right? Do it now. You won't lose the gift. You will not lose the gift.
Okay, well, hopefully, and thank you.
Sure, and never hesitate to reach out if you want to speak specifically about,
so
a profile.
That is so nice. Thank you.
It's my absolute pleasure. It's my absolute pleasure.
Bye.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
I'm Iris, as you can see.
Hi, Iris. Yes.
And I'm the co-president of the Kutz Senior Living Campus Auxiliary. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
And Jeff. I don't want to leave Jeff out, since look like we're the only three still in. But so our organization is tied to the Kutz Senior Living Campus, and
yes,
we're kind of like the fundraising arm of the whole organization. So our main function is to raise funds, and we only have 2 major fundraisers a year, except for contributions that people can make. So we've had to, this year, this past year, these past few months, we had plans, we had things that were already in the works, and we had to quickly pivot and make a change. So we had to almost like have a plan A and a plan B. And we see that also, going forward. We also are seeing that most of the money that we raise is going for COVID-related needs at the Kutz Senior Living Campus.
Yes.
So there are other needs there. And we've, in fact, Joyce Stoffman and I, who are the co-presidents, met with Felicia, who you met and talked with this today, to find out what the needs are. But we're finding, she gave us 3 or 4 things that we could focus our fundraising efforts on. But it always comes back to, are the COVID needs, are the needs for the PPE things, are they overtaking, maybe things that could really help the residents? Because that's what our real mission is, to raise funds to help improve the lives of the residents that live at Kutz and at Lodge Lane. So, that, and we try to, when we plan one of our events, we try to focus on a particular need, so that when people are giving, they know where their money's going to be going for. Last year it was a van, a new paratransit van. It was for the rehabbing of the physical therapy area. We we did that. So we try to earmark what the money's going for, but it seems now that our efforts just have to be more COVID related. So, and it's hard to plan for, you know, we always have a big luncheon in the spring, which is a big fundraiser and brings in a nice chunk of money. This past spring, we had to quickly turn that around to a non-event and just send out and ask people to give. And it was wonderful how many people responded to that. Now we're looking towards the spring of 2021, and it's like we're planning for this luncheon, but we have to have a backup plan. We have to have plan B in case we can't move forward.
Well, I actually, Iris, so thank you so much for sharing this, because I'm actually super excited for your job, your organization also, because I think that, as you know, and not just with COVID, but the elderly have been disproportionately affected by this situation. And I'm actually speaking from personal experience. So I have a grandmother who lives in exactly the same type of place in Denver, and COVID didn't really affect where she lived, but the isolation, I mean, she would go to the gym every day, like literally, and now she is not even mentally with us at all. I mean, there are so many stories like this, the lack of socialization, the lack of programming, the way that, I mean, and they had to do what they had to do, but now that we're sort of beyond that a little bit, I think that the reason I'm excited about this is because I feel like there are so many powerful stories to tell. And stories are what people need to understand what's going on and to raise money, frankly. Without a solid story, you're kind of lost. And there is a tremendous number of stories about the needs of the elderly right now. And I think people have really woken up. I love the fact that elderly, I hate the fact that this had to happen, but that the elderly have been moved to the forefront, right? Because we have seen as a country that they are not respectfully and responsibly cared for, right? And this disaster has only proven that in a lot of ways. And what you're doing at Coutts is it's a different kind of place, right? And I think that you should count on, I mean, I would love it if you could have a luncheon, but I still don't think that everyone who you need to be comfortable being there is going to be able to be there. So I would certainly plan to go virtual. And if you're able to have some form of luncheon alongside it or live stream it, great. But I would get the best produced virtual event going that you can. And I think if you want just my opinion, and maybe Felicia would be not so happy that I would just be kind of giving my opinion here because I don't live in your community, but I would spend the time and the resources on that virtual event, especially since we're dealing with, I would say, not just the elderly, but the people who give to the elderly. If you're very, very young and you're going to be able to attend an in-person event, even if circumstances have changed, the elderly often aren't so much on the minds of, you know, the 20 to 40 as it is from 40 to 60. And I think that virtual probably in your case is the way to go. Start the story bank, start videotaping people, their families, you know, with your iPhone. Like, it doesn't need to be a professional production. In fact, it's almost better if it isn't sometimes. And, you know, don't think of it as COVID related, like a PPE, but it's okay that the needs are COVID related, because what those COVID related needs really are needs that COVID exposed, right? They are what you were doing anyway, the socialization, the respect for the way that the elderly are living and that they're treated, and maybe memory care. And COVID just highlighted that for you. So call it COVID or don't, you were doing this to begin with. You're still doing it now, but you know the needs are even greater. You have the best story.
Can I say one thing before I go?
Yes.
I wanted to thank Iris for continuing to be co-president of the auxiliary. I was co-president for 2 years.
I was just
and
going to say that. Yeah.
It was such a busy job that I couldn't do it for more than 2 years. And I'm really grateful to you, Iris, for continuing to do that for many years.
Thank you.
Yeah.
People are probably tired of hearing from me, but
no way.
You're fabulous.
I can already tell. No, I would never be tired of hearing from you.
And Kelly,
ever.
Kelly, I wanted to tell you before I go that I got to hear about how you and Wendy sort of were tied in the past, and that was the coolest story.
Isn't that cool and crazy? Cool. Isn't it?
I know.
Yeah.
And like the chances of figuring that out were very, just it was sort of meant to be Bashert that you should figure out that your fathers, right, were in the same fraternity.
Oh, that's funny.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was saying that my father actually passed away when he was 42. He had pancreatic cancer.
I'm
so it was, thank you.
Oh,
but it was especially touching for me because,
I
it's just been a long time now. And to hear that somebody had a memory, it was just really special. It was really special for me. So it was really, really, both crazy and lovely for me. So thank you for saying that.
I'm sorry you lost him so young.
Oh, well, me too, but
Yeah.
By the way, Kelly, my daughter went to Brandeis.
Oh, awesome.
She only went for a year because she kind of found her mission, what she wanted to do. So she transferred to Syracuse. But she wouldn't have gotten into her Syracuse program. She was in the Newhouse School. She wouldn't have gotten in if she hadn't gone to Brandeis that first year.
Well, that's what I'm glad we have that in common as well. I love Brandeis. I'm a huge, I actually live down the street, which is weird, but
she loved it, but she just found that she wanted to pursue communications and
and that was the place to do it for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
But one of her best friends, who was her roommate at Brandeis, is still one of her best friends. So,
oh, that's so nice. How old is your granddaughter?
My daughter.
Your daughter?
That's my daughter.
Is your daughter my age?
She's 45.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Well, who's her best friend?
Corey Goldman.
Ugh, I wish I knew it. I wish I could remember him.
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
ladies,
that's cool.
I'm going to blow a kiss.
Bye, Lisa.
Goodbye.
It was so nice to see you.
Thank you for staying after, too.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
So
Don't
Have a
hesitate
great
if you
day.
need anything. You
Have a
too.
good
Bye,
day.
guys.
Bye.